Hey there, and welcome to the Girl Means Business podcast, the show that's all about helping photographers just like you build a thriving business without sacrificing your sanity. I'm your host, Kendra Swalls, a former teacher turned full-time photographer and marketing coach, here to fill your earbuds each week with practical tips, real-life stories, and a whole lot of encouragement. So if you're ready to dive in, let's get to it because this girl means business. Hey friend, and welcome back to the Girl Means Business podcast. We have a really exciting episode today, but before we get to that, I have a little housekeeping to do that has to do with the audio quality of this episode. So right before I recorded my interview with our guest today, and as I'm recording this intro, I'm having to use my backup microphone because my fancy schmancy podcast microphone that I love and that I use for everything completely gave up on life. It completely died. It fell apart. It was a whole thing. So just a little note that if you're listening and you're like, something just sounds off on this, it's because I'm using a backup microphone. It's not ideal, but we are making it work. Okay, so today's episode is a guest interview episode, and I'm so excited about it. It is with Sara Dunn from SaraDoesSEO. She is a wedding SEO specialist for planners, photographers, venues, any wedding professionals who want their website to rank higher on Google. And I'm really excited for you to listen to this episode because she is breaking down for us not just what is SEO, but what are some of the things we need to be looking for, focusing on, some of the nuances of SEO. Because for me, SEO has been a key part of how I have continued to grow my photography business, sort of behind the scenes. I don't spend a lot of time on social media for my photography business. I haven't in years. I have an email list, I have SEO, and I have referrals. Those are my top three ways that I stay booked in my photography business. Now, obviously, it ebbs and flows like any photography business does, but I know that at any point I can kind of flip the switch on my SEO. I can boost that up. I can create more content on my blog. I can just put in little efforts here and there that are going to keep that SEO consistently building my client base. And so if you're someone who has listened to this podcast, if you're someone who has been in photography and you're like, yeah, the social media game is just not my game. I don't want to play it. I don't enjoy it. SEO is truly a strong, underrated, in my opinion, marketing strategy that should be and needs to be utilized by more and more small businesses, more and more photographers. So if it's something that you've been thinking about, kind of had in the back of your mind for a while, kind of put on that to-do list of when I have time, I will work on this. When I have more capacity for things in my life, I will work on this. Then this would be a great episode for you to dive into and listen to. So I'm excited for you to check it out. And I have all of Sara's links down below, so make sure you go and grab those and check out what she offers as well. And let's dive into our conversation. All right, Sara, welcome to the Girl Means Business podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm super excited to have you here.
Yeah, well, I am so glad to join you and get to talk a little bit of business and a little bit of SEO.
Yeah. Oh, I cannot wait. Okay. Let's start with, tell me a little bit about your story and your background into how you got to where you are today, kind of serving wedding professionals in the SEO space.
Well, I have to admit that my entry into serving wedding professionals is a little different than a lot of people. I know a lot of people like you, Kendra, started out actually working in your industry, and then you started serving and coaching others in a similar type of business. I started way outside the wedding industry, and my background is actually in digital marketing. So years ago, I taught myself how to make a website, and I started doing it on the side for friends. I did a website for a political campaign, and I did it for a small distribution business, and word kind of got out, and I realized that people would actually pay me to make them a website. So that became a business which I did for years, working mostly with small local businesses near me in Southwest Michigan. And I would do anything: websites, email marketing, social media. Someone was like, "We want to start doing LinkedIn." I'm like, "I'll set you up a LinkedIn. Whatever you want, I'll figure it out." And one of those things that clients asked me about was getting found on search engines. So I still remember one of my clients, now he was an electrician, but we were sitting in a pitch meeting. I was telling him, "I'll make you a new website. I have all these great ideas for it." And he was like, "And if you do this, it'll get me found on Google, right?" And I was like, "Sure, yes." And I had no idea. I was so clueless. But at that point, I was kind of scrappy and I was like, "I can figure it out." And so little did I know he was actually already #1 on Google for his most important keyword. And so it became my job to make sure he didn't lose that ranking, because that's where a lot of clients were finding him. A lot of people who needed an electrician were Googling. He was first. They'd call and they became a customer. And so that was a very pressure-filled experience, but I found out that I really enjoyed learning about keywords and what people were searching for and what the search engines were looking for. So from that point forward, I really incorporated SEO into every single website project that I did. And then everything kind of came together in 2017 when I met a wedding planner. She had actually already had a website designed. So this was not my normal kind of client, but we met at a conference and she said, "Hey, I just had a new website designed by someone else. And since it launched, I keep falling further and further off of page 1 of Google. I used to be on page 1 for Chicago wedding planner. Now I'm on like page 7 and I'm not getting inquiries. I'm not getting phone calls. And I'm really concerned about my business." And I looked at the site and I could tell immediately that whoever built it had no clue about SEO. I said, "Don't worry, we can fix it." So we worked together over several months and I was able to get her back to page 1 of Google. And bless her, she was so thrilled. She was like, "I'm telling everyone I know about you." So in that moment, really, Sara Does SEO was born. I created it as my secret side project while I still had my main agency website and was still doing all of my local business work. But I was like, this is really fun. This is what I really enjoy. And I really went all in with it a couple years later. So now it's been over 7 years that I've been working in wedding industry SEO. And what's fun is I get to bring the outsider's perspective instead of I've been in your shoes and I know all the lingo. I'm like, I've been in the shoes of your client and I know what they need and what they're looking for. And I think there's some benefit to that too. So that is my very long story of how I got here.
No, I love that. I was telling you before we recorded, like I love hearing people's stories. That's why I include it on these episodes, because it's so fun to me. I think a lot of times we just assume that someone got to where they are because they started with all of this knowledge or all of this experience. And so to hear the journey of just how kind of like circuitous it can be to go from one place to another and sort of start slowly niching down to what you really love, and how it can happen by accident. So it's never a bad thing to say yes to something, whether you feel 100% confident in it or not, because it might become the next thing that you absolutely love doing.
Yeah, and I'm actually really glad. I think this is maybe a general business lesson, but I'm glad that at the start of my business, I kind of had that yes attitude. Now, I think that over time can really burn you out as a business owner, constantly saying yes to things that you don't know a lot about. But I was young and really eager in my business, and I really enjoyed learning about all of the different things that I was being asked to do. And, so when someone's like, "We want to start a monthly email newsletter," it was fun for me to go, "Well, how do we even send that out? And what should they talk about? And how can that integrate with the website design I already did?" So I'm truly really glad that I said a lot of yes, because it helped me figure out what I did like and maybe what wasn't my favorite as much. I really liked wedding SEO, really didn't like doing websites for insurance agents. So, like I did both and I figured out which one was a lot more fun.
Yeah. Okay, so this is kind of off the topic of what we're going to talk about today, but I'm curious, when in that same vein of saying yes to all these things, I think sometimes I know for me, especially, like the imposter syndrome kind of sets in of like, okay, well, I'm going to say yes to doing this thing. I don't know what I'm doing. How did you approach it as far as you are taking on something that these people are trusting you with, whether it's the web design or email newsletter or whatever, setting up someone's LinkedIn account if you've never been on LinkedIn before, kind of thing. So how did you mindset wise go into that so that you didn't kind of feel that like I'm not good enough feeling?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Let me ask you something. How many hours have you spent in your business stressing over social media, fighting with an algorithm, trying to keep up with the latest trends, and just posting for the sake of posting, only to feel like you're spinning your wheels and nobody's even paying attention? I've been there, and let me tell you, it is the worst. But I have a fun little secret for you. Did you know that you don't actually need social media to keep your calendar full? Now, I know that goes against everything all of the other quote unquote experts are telling you to do in your business, but I am living proof that you do not need social media to grow your photography business. I have been successfully staying booked solid in my photography business for the last 8 years with very minimal social media use. And I am excited to show you exactly what I've been doing inside of a private podcast series. The 7-day booking blueprint is 8 power-packed episodes that you can binge all at once or listen to at your own pace. Each episode is actionable and designed to help you book more clients without relying on social media. If you're hearing this ad right now, that means that you are a fan of the Girl Means Business podcast. Thank you, by the way. But if you've ever found yourself saying, man, I wish I could just dive even deeper. I wish I could have a one-on-one sit down with Kendra and really pick her brain about all the things that she's doing in her business, then this podcast series is going to give you everything you've been hoping for. It is so packed with so much information that you are going to walk away feeling like you have the exact roadmap you need to grow your photography business. So if you're ready to hop off that social media hamster wheel and actually start seeing results in your business and start filling up your calendar, head down to the show notes and grab the link so that you can start listening right away.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Let me ask you something. How many hours have you spent in your business stressing over social media, fighting with an algorithm, trying to keep up with the latest trends, and just posting for the sake of posting, only to feel like you're spinning your wheels and nobody's even paying attention? I've been there, and let me tell you, it is the worst. But I have a fun little secret for you. Did you know that you don't actually need social media to keep your calendar full? Now, I know that goes against everything all of the other quote unquote experts are telling you to do in your business, but I am living proof that you do not need social media to grow your photography business. I have been successfully staying booked solid in my photography business for the last 8 years with very minimal social media use. And I am excited to show you exactly what I've been doing inside of a private podcast series. The 7-day booking blueprint is 8 power-packed episodes that you can binge all at once or listen to at your own pace. Each episode is actionable and designed to help you book more clients without relying on social media. If you're hearing this ad right now, that means that you are a fan of the Girl Means Business podcast. Thank you, by the way. But if you've ever found yourself saying, man, I wish I could just dive even deeper. I wish I could have a one-on-one sit down with Kendra and really pick her brain about all the things that she's doing in her business, then this podcast series is going to give you everything you've been hoping for. It is so packed with so much information that you are going to walk away feeling like you have the exact roadmap you need to grow your photography business. So if you're ready to hop off that social media hamster wheel and actually start seeing results in your business and start filling up your calendar, head down to the show notes and grab the link so that you can start listening right away.
Well, I think integrity was really important to me in these conversations. So most of the time when a client was like, hey, can you do this? If I'd never done it before, I would likely tell them, hey, happy to figure that out. Haven't done it before, but I'd be happy to figure out the strategy for it. And I usually, I found out the hard way, if I was doing something like that, I should probably charge hourly because I didn't know how long it would actually take. And so I would usually quote a pretty broad range of hours so that we were on the same page of, I'm going to figure it out. I think it's going to take me, 10 to 20 hours to do it. I'll try to stick toward the lower end of that spectrum, but there's some wiggle room here. So when I felt like I approached it by being very transparent with the client, I wasn't in a mindset where I had to really sweat over it and be like, I have to pretend to be an expert at this instantly. So I think that's what helped me to be able to step into new things, is not pretending to be an expert, but really saying, I'm going to do my best to pull this off. And at this point, I had, after doing it a few times, I was like, well, I figured out how LinkedIn worked and I figured out how websites worked. So email newsletters, can't be impossible. Yeah. So mindset wise, that helped.
Yeah, I mean, that's so smart. I think the transparency piece as a client, I know for me, like that would be a big trust thing of like, okay, I feel more comfortable with you that you are being transparent with me. You're letting me know that this is something new to you, but also like, I don't want to take the time to learn it. So now the value is in you're doing the legwork that I don't want to do. So I think a lot of times we focus on the end result and we're like, okay, well, I have to provide this fully created email newsletter for my client and with automations and all the things. But really it's like, it's your value is in the time you spend learning how to have that skill so that the client doesn't have to use that time. So I think that's the mindset a lot too.
For sure. Now, as time went on, I discovered that there were some downsides to this approach. I'll know a little bit about everything approach. First and foremost, I never knew how long anything was going to take. And so I would run up on deadlines and be like, oh my gosh, I still haven't completed this because it's taking twice as long as I thought it would. So it is a more stressful way to operate, having that yes mindset. And the other thing I ran into is that knowing a little bit about everything, I discovered that I wasn't really seen by my clients as an expert in anything. And so when I would actually go to pitch someone, a new client, I didn't have, I could say that I can do everything, but I couldn't look at them and say, I've gotten this type of result for a similar business like yours, and that's why I'm charging a premium price. And so it was like 6 years into my business, and I was kind of like, I feel like I should be beyond this point. I've done so many different things and I have so much knowledge, but I'm not really able to set myself up as an expert in my marketing or my sales conversations. And so I had a really specific experience with a website client I really wanted. It was a jewelry store in my local area, and I had all these ideas for them, beautiful things to be able to talk about their custom jewelry, and I wanted to put together their website. I had a whole plan. I went in and I presented it, and I thought we had a great meeting. I followed up afterward, and the owner finally got back to me like a week later, and he was like, hey, Sarah, really appreciate your proposal, but my niece has just taken a 1 credit hour course in college about web design, so she's just going to do it for us. And I was like, oh boy, like this is on me at this point. If I can't express to this business owner how my work is going to get them better results than someone who took 1 class in college, like I'm not doing a good job setting myself apart. And that's where I got that itch to be like, okay, I think I'm done being broad. How can I be more narrow and find something where I can actually be a true expert and walk into the room and say, I know more about this than anyone else you're going to talk to?
Yeah. Well, and I think about this a lot of times, and I say this a lot to other photographers of sometimes it's good. You have to put yourself in the client's shoes occasionally. And I know I talk about niching down a lot on the podcast. I talk about the fact that being an expert in something really does set you apart so much. And it gives you, like you kind of mentioned, like a little bit of leverage of like, I have all this knowledge. And I find myself not even realizing I'm doing it. When I go to look for something in a certain niche, I look for someone who specializes in that thing. And, for example, we're getting ready to go on a vacation and we're going up to the Seattle area. And we've never been there before, but while we're there, one of the things, we're traveling with some families, and I was like, each family gets to pick kind of some things that we do while we're there. And I was like, okay, I want to hire a photographer while we're there and we can all get updated family photos. And so
Wonderful.
but when I was looking as a client now, at photography client, I don't want somebody who's got like pictures of all the things. I want someone who like specializes in families, but also someone who kind of showcases more of like a touristy feel, because we're tourists coming in. And that was something that I looked for. And I was like, oh yeah, this is what our clients in our area are looking for too. Like they're wanting something, for the most part, not always, but a lot of times they're wanting something specific. And if you can be that person that stands out as, this is what I do and I do really, really well, and like you said, you can show proven results and things like that, it does really set you head and shoulders above the rest.
Yes, definitely sets you apart. And I think helps you to sometimes reach those higher budget clients too. Those people that want to lean on a specialist and make sure that they are getting exactly what they're looking for. Or, maybe they're a more educated buyer and they're like, I can tell you know your stuff. So, I mean, that's what I have found a little bit as I now specialize just in SEO for the wedding industry. It's so much easier to get the client, make the sale, because I've worked with so many similar businesses and I can show examples of those client results or those testimonials. So people feel more calm and comfortable knowing I'm able to deliver what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's so true. Okay, so let's shift into our topic today, which is SEO. So I am a big believer in SEO. For anyone who's listened to this podcast for a long time, you know how much I despise social media and how much I like I've done it. I do it because I know I need to have that presence. It's not what I love, and it's not what I teach a whole lot on. I teach on these more kind of foundational, what I call foundational marketing pieces, which are things like searchability and email marketing and networking and things like that, collaborations, that kind of stuff. And so SEO is something that I have put some time into learning, but I feel like it's always that elusive thing that I'm always saying, I'm going to dive more into that. I want to learn more about that. And I love it, but there's always more I feel like I should be learning. So I'm excited to kind of get some of your insights today. But will you start by just kind of giving us a general idea of what SEO really is and why it is so helpful for businesses?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked that because I never want to get too far down the path of using the acronym SEO where people who don't know what that means think that they're stupid. No stupid questions environment here and in all of my trainings, because I know SEO, first of all, is an acronym. Second of all, can feel kind of overwhelming and scary. So here's my definition of SEO. It stands for search engine optimization. And basically that means our ability as business owners and website owners to influence the search engine results for free. Basically, in SEO, we're trying to convince search algorithms that we are the best business possible to return when people have a really specific need. Because, we've talked about traditional search for years. We've all used Google. We've all seen the list of the blue links. And there's certain reasons that some businesses show up at the top of that list and other businesses are down on page 7 or 8 or not there at all. So my job as an SEO specialist is to study which websites are showing up well, who's getting the most visibility, and then figure out what are the commonalities, what are the best practices that all of these sites are incorporating, and those become the things that I experiment and test. So then from there, I'm able to develop kind of our own process or framework where I'm like, hey, every website that's ranking well has this type of keyword in the SEO title. That should become a best practice that we always follow. So that is SEO, just learning what the algorithms are looking for and making sure that our businesses are well positioned.
I love the way you phrased that. Like it's how we influence the search engines. It's not necessarily to me, no, something about the way you phrased that made me think in a little bit of a different way, as opposed to like it's a science. It's more of this kind of fluid, like we're just trying to find new ways to sort of influence. I know that word has some negative connotations sometimes when it comes to like social media and things like you think of like influencers. Algorithms are definitely not words we love to hear, but I do find that for me personally, when I have really put time and energy into my SEO, and I have been on page 1 of Google for certain keywords, it shows up in my business so much more than any other effort I've ever put into my business, really. And the power it has, I feel like, is so great that it gets overlooked a lot because it's not flashy. It's not this shiny, fun thing. It's not instant gratification.
It's not visible.
It's not visible. Yeah, you're right. It's very much a behind the scenes thing. But it's so powerful.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Okay, friend, it's time for a little real talk. If you've been listening to this show for a while, you know that I only recommend tools that I genuinely use and love. And at the top of that list is Flowdesk. It's one of those tools that I cannot run my business without. If you took it away today, I would be so upset. It is how I create a marketing plan that works seamlessly in the background of my business, allowing me to create beautiful on-brand emails without spending hours wrestling with templates or code. It just works, and it works simply and easily over and over in my business without question. It actually makes email marketing kind of fun. Over the years, I have promoted one of my favorite features of Flowdesk, which is their unlimited pricing, which meant you paid one flat fee no matter how many subscribers you had on your list. But here's the thing. As businesses grow and evolve, Flowdesk being one of them, things change. And Flowdesk is officially saying goodbye to their unlimited plan, which means right now is your last chance to lock in unlimited emails and subscribers for the life of your subscription. Once it's gone, it's gone. So if you've been thinking about trying Flowdesk, right now is the time to sign up. All you have to do is head down to the show notes and grab my referral link, which also gives you 50% off your first year. So it's pretty much a win-win. This will lock in your unlimited plan for the life of your membership, which means that you will never have to pay anything more than what you see now. So grab that link, get signed up, and start saving for the life of your membership. I promise you won't regret it.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Okay, friend, it's time for a little real talk. If you've been listening to this show for a while, you know that I only recommend tools that I genuinely use and love. And at the top of that list is Flowdesk. It's one of those tools that I cannot run my business without. If you took it away today, I would be so upset. It is how I create a marketing plan that works seamlessly in the background of my business, allowing me to create beautiful on-brand emails without spending hours wrestling with templates or code. It just works, and it works simply and easily over and over in my business without question. It actually makes email marketing kind of fun. Over the years, I have promoted one of my favorite features of Flowdesk, which is their unlimited pricing, which meant you paid one flat fee no matter how many subscribers you had on your list. But here's the thing. As businesses grow and evolve, Flowdesk being one of them, things change. And Flowdesk is officially saying goodbye to their unlimited plan, which means right now is your last chance to lock in unlimited emails and subscribers for the life of your subscription. Once it's gone, it's gone. So if you've been thinking about trying Flowdesk, right now is the time to sign up. All you have to do is head down to the show notes and grab my referral link, which also gives you 50% off your first year. So it's pretty much a win-win. This will lock in your unlimited plan for the life of your membership, which means that you will never have to pay anything more than what you see now. So grab that link, get signed up, and start saving for the life of your membership. I promise you won't regret it.
Yeah. I mean, when we think about social media, which of course is like the hot topic all the time, it's so visible to be able to see how many followers do you have? How many likes did your last post have? How many views did your last TikTok video get? That's all very visible, public, and as a business owner, fairly easy to keep track of. Whereas with SEO, our results look more like clicks and inquiries. And with clicks, it's not public. You actually have to go dig into your website analytics, which nobody wants to do. And you might need to use some tools to track how well you're ranking for certain keywords you're working on. So it's not as easy to be like, hey, I'm winning today. Hey, I'm doing great. It's something that does take a little bit more of technical knowledge. So I do acknowledge that. It also comes with zero dopamine hit. You know, you put up that TikTok and it starts going crazy and you're like, I am amazing at everything. And you're like going to the app and you're refreshing to see how many views it has now. I mean, there's zero dopamine hit with SEO. It's very slow as opposed to social, which can happen really fast and virally. But what's important is, while SEO can be slow to see results, it's also this long burn. So when you get to page one, you convince a search engine that you're a quality business that's a great fit for searchers, you can actually stay on page one and get clicks for years. So that's what I think is really special about it. It's a more sustainable strategy for business owners who don't want that constant hustle that social media visibility can be.
Yeah, sustainability. I like that word because it is like, I feel like the people I talk to who are struggling with the social media piece is they're like, I feel like I have just on this hamster wheel of constantly having to crank out more content and it's gone like that. Like, you know, you post it and within 12 to 24 hours, it's irrelevant. It's not, it's buried in a pile of other people's content. And with SEO and searchability, it's so much more sustainable and it has much longer lasting effects, like you said, which is, I don't know, it's why I love stuff like that. I'm like, I'd rather invest in that, even though it isn't, like you said, the dopamine hit, it isn't the instant gratification. But when you get those inquiries and they click that button of how did they find you and it says Google, you're kind of like, yes, it works.
Oh, it feels so good. Yes.
Yeah.
And it really can last a long time. So I told you about my first wedding planner client. I actually checked in on her rankings today. Just, we haven't worked together in a long time. Like, she's happy with where her business is, but I like to check in on her and see how she's doing. And she's still on page one for the keyword we worked on in 2017. So I'm like, this is amazing. I love it so much. I mean, the work and the investment she made then is still paying off now. And there's so few things that work that way. So that's a big win for me.
That's awesome. Okay, so we've mentioned the word a couple of times, keyword. So let's kind of break down, because before we get too into like strategies and things people can implement on their own, I really want to make sure everybody understands, because I think that's where people get stuck, is like they hear all these terminologies and I know for me, like the Google dashboard, it even kind of feels overwhelming sometimes, all that kind of stuff. But let's just start
with
too. Simple. So, yeah. I'm good. I'm not alone in that. So we talked about what SEO is. Can we talk a little bit about what keywords are? Because you mentioned with that wedding planner client, you were like, she's still on page one for the keyword that we, worked on. How do you know? Well, first of all, define keyword, and then let's talk about like how do you know what keywords you need to be working on for your business? Because it feels like they could be limitless.
Oh, yes, and they are. Okay, so keywords are basically search phrases, the things that people type into a search engine. And with traditional search engines, and as I've watched SEO over the last few years for businesses like ours, it's usually your location plus your service. So something like Bay Area family photographer might be a keyword. So that's what they're looking for because they want family photos. They're looking for someone in their area. Sometimes a keyword is more like family photographer near me. So people might kind of assume that the search engines are going to tailor those results for their location, which they do. So that's another idea of a keyword. It's usually, even though it says keyword, it's usually a search phrase made up of multiple words that people are putting into the search engine. And there are billions of things that are searched for every single day, including phrases that the search engines have never seen before. So my job in SEO is to identify the really common ways that people might search for each of my clients. And then we make a list of those potential keywords. So the one I mentioned for the planner was Chicago wedding planner. She also ranks for Indian wedding planner Chicago. So that is a similar keyword, but actually we created different content to target that particular searcher. So what we do with keywords, usually at the beginning of an SEO project, we do a little bit of research using an SEO tool because that will actually tell us what people are searching for and what they aren't. So Google gives away some of its data to different tools. I like to teach on one that's called Uber Suggest. If you go to ubersuggest.com, you can usually do one free search a day without signing up for an account. Or if you want to get really geeky for like a week, you can do a 7-day free trial and cancel before you pay. But it's a really good thing to do if you're going to spend any time at all working on your SEO. Just run your keyword ideas through an SEO tool, because sometimes we're so deep in our own specialty that we don't realize what real people actually search for. And for photographers, my example of this is portrait photographer. Everybody writes on their website, I'm a wedding and portrait photographer, or I'm a portrait photographer in this place. And the thing is, your clients, for the most part, are not searching for a portrait photographer. They don't know what that means. Yeah. They're searching for family photographer, maternity photographer, newborn photographer, or photographer in general. And so it's great to do this little gut check with an SEO tool before you go all in and you're like, I'm going to rank for Seattle portrait photographer. And then you find out that Seattle family photographer is searched 10 times more. Yeah. So is that a good overview of keywords?
Oh yeah, no, that's perfect. So my follow-up question then would be, are there keywords that are too broad? Because, so for example, I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. There are a ton of photographers in this area. And so if you live somewhere, or if you're in an area like, Detroit or Chicago or Denver, any big city, any big metropolitan city, is it better to focus on like individual, like smaller areas, or is, like as far as saturation point, I guess is my question, is there a saturation point for keywords that we should be cautious about?
Yeah. So if you're just getting started with SEO, you will want to look for less competitive keywords. So fewer people are using them. They might be searched less, but also they'll be easier to rank for, because everybody's looking at that juicy keyword, Dallas family photographer, and they're all trying to use that phrase on their website. Imagine there's 500 photographers that all say, I'm a Dallas family photographer. Well, there's still only 10 spots on the first page of Google. But give me the name of maybe another small town near Dallas.
So like Grapevine,
Texas. So let's say, we could do a little search in an SEO tool and go family photographer, Grapevine, Texas. What if that's only searched 50 times a month? Well, there might only be 5 other photographers that have thought to say on their website, I'm a wedding photographer in Grapevine, Texas. And so you have a much better chance of being on page 1 for those 50 people every single month who are searching for that. So if you've never done SEO before, I do recommend that you try to find those smaller and more specific areas to optimize your site for. And then, maybe as you grow and you get more reviews online, or you get more links or more authority, you might have the opportunity to shift your strategy later and be like, I'm going all in on Dallas family photographer. But it's usually not the best place to start.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things that, like, we have so many little suburbs in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that I tell my clients all the time, I'm like, don't try to go for the big ones first off. Like, first of all, we're also so far apart. To go from one side of Fort Worth to the other side, it's almost a 2-hour drive. I'm like, do you really want to get clients on the east side of Dallas if you live on the west side of Fort Worth and drive 2 hours to sessions? Like, you want kind of focus on who's in your area. There's enough people. And you mentioned like, let's say there's 50 people a month searching for that. Well, you can't handle 50 clients a month, likely. Like, that's going to get you more than enough inquiries probably to keep you consistently booked. I don't think we have to have these huge, we need thousands of people searching for us each month. Like, that's too much anyway. We can't take on that many clients as one person. So don't be afraid to kind of go a little bit smaller. It'll benefit you in the end.
Yeah, I'm so glad you said that, because so many of my SEO students, as they're going through the course, they'll come to me and they'll be like, oh, I'm so disappointed. My city only has 100 searches a month, and the example you're showing has 1,200. And I'm like, 100 searchers a month is 1,200 searchers a year. Yeah. Like, you don't need that many clients. So, I mean, if that is the best, most specific keyword for you, it doesn't have to have 1,200 searches a month. Like, go for the lower volume keyword, and it's still going to positively get you visibility with the people you really want to find you.
Yeah. Okay, so let's kind of keep with one keyword. Let's say we'll go with let's do Grapevine, Texas family photographer, because I know a lot of family photographers listening. So now that they've decided, okay, Grapevine, family photographers, the keyword we're going to focus on, what do you do with that keyword? How do you utilize it, and where do you utilize it? And this is kind of a big question, so feel free to kind of break it down as you need to, but how do we put that into practice to get us the results that we want?
Yeah. So here's what's interesting to me is so many business owners come to me and they have a keyword idea in mind. Maybe it's family photographer, Grapevine, Texas. And they come to me and they're like, I don't know why I'm not ranking better for this. Like, I've done this for years. This person who just started their business a year ago is on page 1. And I look at that person's website and I'm like, you've never used that exact phrase on your site. How is a search engine robot just scanning your website supposed to understand that you're the best family photographer in Grapevine, Texas? Because right now your website just says, I capture fleeting memories, or, chaser of light, or something like that. And you've never said family photographer in Grapevine, Texas.
Just side note, you've listed 2 of like my pet peeve homepage quotes for photographers.
I mean, we've seen so many of the same ones. Yes. So, I mean, I'm not against having a tagline on your website that is like a more marketing focused phrase, but somewhere on there, you also have to use that most important keyword. Now, when I teach SEO, I teach what I call the fill in the blank method, because basically I've figured out where Google is looking for that keyword to really feel confident that you are really relevant for that search. So a couple of those blanks that we fill in the optimization process. One of them is the SEO title of your homepage. Now, SEO title is this annoying thing that you won't be able to see visibly on your website, but it's usually in the page settings. So whatever website platform you use, Wix, Squarespace, Pixieset, there is a place to go into the homepage settings and set your SEO title. And I want to see that most important keyword included there. Family photographer, Grapevine, Texas.
Okay, I'm going to pause it there for a second, because this is where I know I would hear people ask questions. Okay, if I am this Grapevine family photographer, but I also want to not specialize, but I also do maternities and high school seniors or whatever. There's a mix of things that you do. How do you choose which one to focus on for your like website SEO title?
Yes. So it really depends on how you want to present your business. So up to you. If families are, at an equal level with other types of photography, you might want to have a separate page on your website that's just about families. And that could be the page that you're optimizing for Grapevine family photographer. So maybe on your homepage, you just say Grapevine photographer, something more general. And then you have specific pages for each type of photography that you offer. Okay. That is my number one recommendation for multidiscipline photographers. Don't just dump all of those categories on one page, because Google loves when we present specific content that meets that searcher's need. Just to explain this maybe in a more tangible way, let's imagine that someone is searching for a Grapevine maternity photographer, and website A has a page that's all about maternity photography. That's all the page is about. There's an example gallery. There is a description that's about maternity. They talk about FAQs. When should I have my maternity photos? What should I wear? It's all completely customized to maternity. Website B has a general services page, and it says, I offer all these different types of photography, families, newborns, all of the things. Well, Google's going to look at these 2 options and go, well, obviously website A is a better search result for when someone is looking for a maternity photographer. That is a really specific page that we can put in the search results, and it's really going to fit their needs and what they're looking for. So I love when my photographers have an individual service page for each type of photography they offer.
Okay, that's a great tip, because a lot of times I do a lot of website kind of audits for photographers and stuff. And one of the things I do see a lot is they'll have like a services tab, and then it just kind of lists all the things they offer. So you're saying it's better to have each service be its own dedicated page so that you can really pour in those keywords to that. Okay. Perfect.
Yes. And if I'm getting really picky here and we're talking about strategy, I don't want it to just be a gallery with no words on it. I see this a lot with photographer sites too. Like they've got a main services page that lists all the things, and then they have these separate galleries. And they're like, well, Sara, I've got a weddings gallery on there, like, but it's got no text. Yeah. So when a robot is scanning the internet, trying to make sense of your content, here's this big page with 100 images and no text. And the robot can't be sure that that page is all about wedding photography because you haven't used that phrase on the page. So I want an in-depth services page about each type of photography, not just a gallery with that kind of photos on it.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yes. Okay, so this leads me to another question, because you were talking about how, it's like basically it's a robot that is scanning your site and looking at these things. It's not a human doing this. However, we are humans creating a website for other humans to view. Knowing that, and knowing that we need to not only have a website that serves our clients, serves our human clients, but we also have to serve this kind of AI robot algorithm that we're trying to get to show our website on the first page. How do we balance the two so that we can have these beautiful images, these beautiful flowery things on our website that appeal to our client, but then also still have the stuff that we need to appeal to the algorithm, the robot of it all?
Yes, I would say overall, what the search engine robot is trying to do is make decisions like a human. So I don't actually think that optimizing for SEO, the way I do it, and optimizing for people is actually super opposed. Because if I think about the searcher, they're looking for a maternity photographer. They probably want a little bit more information too than just 100 photos of your work. They probably want a little bit of information about your approach, how long a session is, how much you're going to charge them for that. And so having a service page that's well optimized for Google, I believe is also well optimized to serve the searcher and the person really, really well. So Google's trying to act as a person and figure out like legitimately who is the best business to show in this result, not just who's the best at SEO and appealing to the robots. And that's why there's a lot of other things that factor into this too, like your online reputation, the connections you've made, your number of reviews. All of these things are also influential because Google's just trying to appeal to people and find the best business. Yeah. So I think we can balance it really well. And I would remind our photographers listening that you are some of the most visual people that exist. And a lot of photographers will say to me, well, I don't want a site with a lot of words on it because it takes away from my work. And I just want to remind you that you're one type of buyer and a very specific type. But there's a lot of people like me. I'm an analyzer. I want some written text on there. I want to know who you are. I want to know why I should hire you versus someone else. And that's not just about what your work looks like to me. So keep in mind that you're trying to appeal to many buyers, and a lot of them will want to read something, even if, they're not going to read 3,000 words. Yeah.
Okay, so in the process, I thought of like kind of 3 more things I want us to cover before we kind of wrap up. So we'll sort of rapid fire some of these things because I want to be respectful of our time and the listeners' time. So speaking to that idea of like photographers are very visual people, and I see this a lot going through photographers' websites, is the focus is very heavy on the images. And from what I've learned, these robots, they can't scan the images and really figure out like what you're trying to do. So obviously there's some back end things we can do on the images. So I've heard some kind of conflicting things from different people on what should go into the SEO piece of images on your website. Can you kind of give us like a quick clarification on like for photographers who are wanting to have a gallery of photos, or we do want to show off our work, how can we optimize those images to best serve the SEO of our website?
Yes. So for image SEO, there's 2 things I teach that are really important that Google tells us are important in their search guidelines. And that's image file names and alt text. because those two things actually show up in the code of the image. When the robot is reading through the code of your website, the image file name can give a clue of what that image is, and so can the alt text. Now, the conflicting advice sometimes comes from people that are like, hey, just use your keyword for every single image file name in alt text. And that is a really outdated practice. It absolutely used to work. But as Google has tried to move away from just sites that are well optimized for SEO towards sites that actually provide great value to the searcher, it can look a little over optimized if all of your images are named grapevine family photographer.jpg. So when I teach SEO, I keep in mind what Google tells us they want, which is that a file name and alt text should be a description of what's shown in the image. And maybe that is family photo in Grapevine, Texas, but it's certainly not Grapevine family photographer over and over again. So use descriptive image file names and alt text, and as much as possible, vary them up in a way that describes that image. Maybe it's, family photo in a field in Grapevine, Texas, something like that, a little bit more descriptive than just repeating your photographer keyword.
Is it good in that situation? Because I've done this some on my own website with like my senior portraits, because when I do a Google search in my area for like my senior portrait keyword or senior photo keyword, I don't always come up on the first page of my website. But if you do an image search, I have tons of my images come up in that first page of image, or the first like section of image searches. And a lot of that is because I have included specific locations. So for example, like if there's a popular park in your town that people go to all the time, or for example, like we're using Grapevine, downtown Grapevine is a huge photography spot. So is it okay to add those kinds of descriptors in too, like downtown Grapevine family session?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
If you're a podcast host or someone wanting to be interviewed on podcasts as a guest, visit podmatch.com. Podmatch automatically connects ideal podcast guests and hosts together for interviews. We always say it works just like a dating app, but instead of connecting you for dates, it connects you for podcast interviews. Podmatch has connected over 85,000 guests and hosts together for interviews that listeners love, all while saving you countless hours of administrative work through built-in automations. If you're ready to level up your podcast interviews on either side of the mic, start today by visiting podmatch.com.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
If you're a podcast host or someone wanting to be interviewed on podcasts as a guest, visit podmatch.com. Podmatch automatically connects ideal podcast guests and hosts together for interviews. We always say it works just like a dating app, but instead of connecting you for dates, it connects you for podcast interviews. Podmatch has connected over 85,000 guests and hosts together for interviews that listeners love, all while saving you countless hours of administrative work through built-in automations. If you're ready to level up your podcast interviews on either side of the mic, start today by visiting podmatch.com.
Absolutely. Yes, because it's a really easy way for you to make sure you're varying up your image file names and alt text based on the actual location of where they are, so whether it's Rosedale Park or downtown Grapevine or, something lake, that these are all great things to use because it does help it be a little more descriptive and varied. So I love that idea.
Perfect. Okay, so my next question is about blogging, because I love blogging, which I never thought I would say coming from like my math teacher background, that I would love to write and blog. But I do a lot of blogging services for photographers. I teach a lot on blogging. How does that factor into the SEO piece? Because I'm curious to know if what I've been teaching the masses is actually accurate.
Well, I love blogging too. It's such a wonderful way to diversify the keywords you're ranking for. So we can get found for so many different things, not just our main city and our service, but we can also get found for more informational searches. And if people are looking at photos at a certain location. That's a great way to do it. So I also love and highly recommend blogging. I do want to say though, for the photographers listening, you don't have to blog every session and you don't have to blog every week. I think a lot of people feel the pressure of blogging and they're like, if I'm not blogging every session, I'm not doing it right. Or if I'm not blogging consistently. So I want to take a little of that pressure off, because the reality is every single high quality blog post you put on your website adds value to your site. And that value doesn't go away if you don't blog for 3 or 6 months after that. So when you have time, when you feel inspired, that's a great time to do it. And don't put this pressure on yourself where I have to blog every week, I have to publish it every Wednesday. It doesn't work like that anymore. We don't have regular blog subscribers we're trying to appeal to. We're just trying to help you get found by more people when they're searching for different things. So love blogging for diversifying keywords. The other thing I'll say is when a site has more resources, more pages on it, more blog posts, Google tends to believe it's a better website to present in the search results because there's more there for someone to click around to. So I had a new student who joined my program today, and she has a 1-page website. And I think it's been serving her needs. So basically it's one of those sites that's just like a big scrolling page. And when you click on About in the menu, it just scrolls you down the page. When you click on Portfolio, it just scrolls you a little further down. And the issue with that with SEO is to Google, the site looks really boring. Like there's nothing great here that people are going to be able to click through, spend some time, get all their questions answered. It just looks very shallow. So I really recommend building out high quality pages about your services and then high quality blog posts, because then you just look like you're presenting a better resource.
Yeah.
So, you said rapid fire. I can't rapid fire.
You're fine. I just said rapid fire as in like, I could go on for hours about this topic. So I'm the same way. Like I will talk forever. I will keep you here for 3 hours to talk about this if you let me. But okay, the last thing I was going to talk about was, you had mentioned this a couple times in passing, was things like reviews and your like your standings or whatever with Google. So I know that like the Google My Business accounts and things like that are important, but how does that factor into our SEO, and how much, I guess if you were to give it like a percentage of like website focus versus like Google My Business focus, what would you put that percentage at?
Yes. So many people think that how you rank on Google only has to do with what you write on your website, how you optimize your website, have you chosen the right platform, like all these things that are very specific to your website. But if you make me put a percentage on it, I would say that's maybe only 50% of your SEO success. And the entire other 50% of who ranks at the top of the search results has to do with your online reputation. And here's the reason why. Google doesn't want me as an SEO expert to be able to put up a website tomorrow that's really well optimized for grapevine family photographer, and all of a sudden outrank you who've been doing this for years, because I'm brand new. I don't know what I'm doing. I could be a scam artist that's just going to take people's money if I can get more traffic. And so what Google's trying to do is elevate reputable businesses that have proven that they have connections and that they're a real business. And so a lot of what happens with SEO and your results have to do with things like links to your website and the number of Google reviews that you have. So any way you can find to get some more links to your site can be really valuable. You know, can you do photography for an event that will give you a photo credit? Can you sponsor a local sports team for a really small amount of money or something like that, where they'll actually link back to your website on their website? Things like that show that you're a real business, active in the community, and other people trust you. And that actually has a lot of influence on your search ranking.
That's a really great point, because I think a lot of times, we look at things in terms of return on investment. And for example, like if someone reaches out to you and they're like, hey, I'd love to have you, well, this is actually a real life example for me. So, as outside of my photography and my marketing coaching, I created at one point like this iPhone photography class for moms. And every once in a while, I will teach it at like a little conference, or I'll do it somewhere in a local community event. And I've had this lady who's reached out to me a couple of times. She does like a yearly back to school kind of not really a summit, like a little bundle for moms going back to school. And one of the things she always likes to include is my iPhone photography, like little cheat sheet that leads them to buying my course. And when she approached me this summer about doing it again, there was a part of me that was like, yeah, I mean, I've done this for a couple of times and it's fine, but I'm like, it's not really in like the lane of where I'm focusing, but that course is on my photography website. And so either way, it's being linked to my site and it's building reputation. It's building that online reputation. And so even though it might not drive sales right away, even though it might not get me a ton of clicks right away, it's living on her site. All new people are looking at it, people are clicking on it, and it's building up that kind of, like you said, the reputation piece. And I think a lot of times, again, we focus so much on the instant, like if I invest in this, what am I going to get right away? As opposed to this idea of like, if I contribute to this thing and all it costs me is maybe a discount on a session or even like a mini session spot, but it's going to get me some SEO, reliability for Google, that could be a bigger return on investment than we're really putting the weight on it as it is. So I think that's a really important thing I want to highlight here. And then let's talk about the review piece of this, because I think that for a lot of photographers, that's kind of a catch-22 in some ways, because they're a little nervous about the idea of like, well, what happens if I get negative reviews? What happens if, somebody like doesn't like my session, so they come back and they spam me with all these negative reviews? Like, I think it's been kind of this like, not really a scary space. It's just one that people kind of put off to the side. So what are some tips you have or ways to maybe boost those reviews and not let it be this source of like, oh, I don't want it to be a negative thing?
Yeah. Well, I will say if you want to show up in the Google Map results, it's critical to have a Google business profile. And with it does come the ability for anyone to leave you a review. But the return can be so great. In a lot of the search results, the very first thing at the top is that 3-pack of map results where you can see immediately the name of the business, their rating, and the number of reviews that they have. And you're never going to show up there if you don't have Google Business Profile. So I tell all small businesses to set up the Google Business Profile, and I really think that it's a great idea. I actually don't see a lot of negative reviews for photographers. I think you all do a great job taking care of people. I also think that the average searcher also knows that some clients are crazy. And if you can, maybe even if you do get a negative review, if you can leave an organized and enthusiastic, empathetic response in return, you can still save that client interaction. You can still save your future reputation with a great response. So I don't want anyone to let the fear of a negative review keep them from building up online reviews that could actually help improve your visibility and your trust with future clients.
Yeah. And I use those reviews all the time when I'm like helping clients with creating content. I will go into their Google account and I will grab reviews and use them as like, client proof and social proof and things like that. So it's really helpful, and it's it's an easy way to build that trust online. I know for me, going back to this idea of putting yourself in the client's shoes, we're getting ready to go on this trip and I've been Googling a lot of things in the area, and the first thing I typically look at is what comes up on that map search. So let's say, for example, we're going to do a whale watching excursion. So I was searching just today before I got on the call with you for like whale watching tours. And I looked at the first 3 that came up on the little map. And then as soon as I clicked on one, the first thing I did was click on the reviews. Because I was like, I want to see what real people have to say, because as much as our websites can brag about how great we are, it's really the social proof has a lot of weight to it. So that's definitely a key thing.
Yes, definitely Google Business Profile. It's free. It's worth the time you spend on it. And for anyone who's listening that's had Google Business Profile for a while, and maybe you haven't looked at it in a long time, it's a great thing to kind of go back to today and say, how am I presenting here when people search for my business name? Is my most recent work actually uploaded to the photos section? Is my cover photo, that one that shows up really prominently in first, is that an up-to-date quality image and how I want to present my business? So really important thing to have and maintain.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Again, there's so many other questions I could ask and things. So I would love to have you back in the future and we can dive even deeper, maybe like an SEO point two.
Yes, for sure.
This has been so helpful. It's already even got my wheels spinning about like, I need to go check on this and double check on that on my website. So thank you so much for all your tips. Let people know like what it is that you offer that they might be interested in and then how they can find you or follow you.
Yeah. So my website and all of my social handles are SaraDoesSEO. So you can find me at SaraDoesSEO.com or at SaraDoesSEO on Instagram and TikTok. Um, if you just want to keep furthering your SEO education, just pick up little tidbits. I would love to have you join me for SEO Lunch and Learn. It is a free monthly 30-minute training that I do on just something simple and actionable about SEO. So always, every single month, I've got an SEO Lunch and Learn coming up. And if you do wedding photography, you want to join a course or program, Wedding SEO Bootcamp is the one. If you're any type of photographer and you just want to hand off all of this and have my team do it for you, we do serve wedding photographers and non-wedding photographers with our service that's called the SEO Fix. So be happy to send you all the links if you do show notes.
Absolutely. Yes. We'll definitely include those links down the show notes. I love the lunch and learn idea. I think that's such a cool way to just kind of share just little quick things because that's one thing I don't want people to walk away from this episode is feeling like they have this giant to-do list now. I want them to know that like it doesn't all have to be done in one day, that it can be you work on it a little bit and you come, go do other things and you come back to it and work on it. It doesn't have to be this thing that you check off and it takes you 2 months to complete. Just little tidbits at a time will be really beneficial. So thank you for
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for your time. We appreciate it. And I hope that everyone will check out your website, your offers, your services, and definitely attend one of those lunch and learns. That sounds really exciting. So thank you again for being here.
Absolutely, Kendra. Thank you.